Bill Lockwood, our friend, is here. A friend of Bond, friend of mine, friend of America. Friend of America, Bill Lockwood. Soon to be the next president of the United States of America. If ever we needed Bill, we need him now. Bill Lockwood is the host of Patriot Pulpit and Bible Studies with Bill Lockwood. He is a preacher at Our Part Church of Christ in Texas, and I want to really encourage you all to support him. There are some people that are really serious about this. They're not playing a game. They're not trying to get clicks and all that. Bill Lockwood is one of those men. American Liberty with BillLockwood.com. American Liberty with BillLockwood.com. Bill, good morning.
Good morning, Jesse. How are you today?
All is well. Sorry for the slow takeoff this morning.
No, that's okay. That's fine.
Yeah. You doing well?
Yes, sir. You know, we've had a great big storm here, a lightning storm and a flood. So it's been kind of bumpy around here, but we're happy to have the water.
It's gone now?
No, it's still going on right now. Matter of fact, and my computer was knocked off this morning, so I had to reboot it and all that kind of fun stuff.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, I wish you guys well over there.
Well, thank you for that. You know, the roads are flooded, so I'm not even going to school today. So there we go.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, Bill, I
Yes,
know
sir.
I want to talk to you about Trump and the Pope and all that. I want to ask you something that's been on my mind for a while now, and I thought, let me ask Bill Lockwood, since you're one of the smartest white men on this side of heaven, and that's the truth. The word inferior, what does that mean?
The word inferior?
Right. Inferior, inferior. What does that mean?
Well, inferior is the opposite of superior. It's below standard.
And what would cause something like that to happen in a human being?
That a person might be inferior?
Yes.
Well, I suppose it depends on what standard you're using. If you're using a standard, for example, of some kind of test, whether it be math, for example, if you're using a math test, I am inferior. So I'm going to be scoring below the bar. Some people are going to be scoring superior. Depends on what standard you're using.
And can it be overcome? Can you overcome inferiority?
Well, it depends on what kind of inferiority it is. If my brain is not functioning at an optimum level, because some people are born that way.
Inferior?
That's right. Their brains are not functioning. They're born, with MR, and they might not be able to function. So I suppose we would say that the functioning of the brain would be inferior. That would not mean that the person himself or herself would be an inferior person, but it just depends upon what standard you're using, and whether it's something that you're born with or something that you're not. For example, some people can overcome it. I know a lot of people who have been inferior in athletics, and they have actually labored harder and worked harder than other people who are more naturally gifted and talented, athletically speaking. And they work harder and they're able to achieve greater things. So I think they can overcome the inferiority on that particular count.
So let's say it's not about math, right? Of course, some people are smarter in math than other people, right? That's like a given thing. But let's say in function and living in life and dealing with life and just having a life, are there people who are inferior to others when it comes to daily living?
You mean in respect to the work ethic that they have?
Yes, and the ability to take care of themselves, provide, and do what they need to do for themselves on earth.
Well, I do believe there are some people who are inferior in that. And in my view, I think that a lot of that is taught because people grow dependency upon others. For example, children living in the basements of their parents, and they are not taught, even from a young age, to be independent and to be assertive in making their own way in the world. And so they are completely dependent upon other people. And so that brings about, I think, inferiority in the sense, only in the sense of that they don't have a great work ethic. So, but God has given us something that would encourage us to have a good work ethic, and that is the hunger, the pain of hunger, the pain of want, the pain of not having, and that encourages people to overcome that inferiority that they have on their work ethic.
Nick, are we able to, since we started off late, can we go through this without stopping for a commercial? Okay. We're going to go through this commercial. Not going to stop.
Okay.
I noticed, so can inferiority bring on jealousy and strife and envy and cause you to cry out for equality since you're not able to do it yourself? Are inferiority people jealous and envious and revengeful and things like that?
Well, it can. It can cause that.
And why
But
would it cause that?
well, it causes that because people are not God-centered and centered upon what that God has given us blessings, and so jealousy comes about when people are not relying upon God and forgiveness, and they allow things to burn in their heart against other people, in spite of the fact that, okay, God has given me what I have, and I have great blessings, even though I look around and people around me are much wealthier than I, and yet I guess I could spend my time looking at them and saying, well, they have something, and I deserve to get something that they have. Instead of that view, I should be taking the view that God has blessed me with what I have, no matter how small it may be financially or physically it may be. I should not look upon other people and grow envious of them. I should be thankful for what God has given me,
Right.
and simply rejoice in what God has given me.
And the reason I'm asking this, I've been noticing lately that in America, that white people are superior to, and we're going to start with the blacks, that white
Okay.
people are superior to black people, and the blacks are inferior. And as a result of being inferior, they're jealous, they're revengeful, they are vicious, and they're nasty, and they blame the white people for uh, their inferiority, and they attack white people, and then they cry equality. They're asking the people that are of superior to them. They are asking them for equality, and I think they mean give me what you have without me having to go
Hmm.
after it for myself, whatever that may be. And then I noticed that in America, over the last 30 years or so, give or take more, white people have done that, but it only made black people feel more inferior to whites. And then I noticed that other groups of so-called people of color, the Mexicans and Chinese, which I don't understand why the Chinese are, they're Asian people, they're smart. But they too, the homosexuals, the lesbians, all these other people are jumping on board, and they believe too that they see that white people are superior to them, especially the white man, and they too are becoming envious and jealous and revengeful and strife, and they're crying equality, and they tend to follow the inferiority group rather than the superiority group. Have you noticed that in America? That they're crying equality, they're blaming the superior people?
Well, okay, there's a lot to unpack there. So, so okay. So first of all, I would say, well, it depends upon what sense you're using, inferior and superior. Just
Well, let me say what I mean by that. Like blacks are inferior and they're not able to take care of themselves. They can't feed their families. They can't keep a family together. They want equality, so they want affirmative action and all that. So they've been able to get it, DEI and everything. And then other races of people are doing the same thing.
Well, okay, let's break it down just a little bit. Let's
Okay.
just
All
let's
right.
just break it down to two individuals, you and me. You're a black man, I'm a white man. I I would not say, not because you're my friend and not because I'm on a national program here, but I would not say that I'm superior to you or you're inferior to me.
I know you would because you're superior. You wouldn't say that.
Well, yeah,
Because what I notice about superior people, they don't complain. They're doing what's natural. They're innovative, they're building, they're going on with their lives. So they're not thinking that they're superior or inferior. It's only they're doing what's natural. It's the inferior people who are thinking that.
well, let's just keep it with you and me
Okay.
for just a moment, just as
All
an
right.
illustration,
Uh,
just as illustration.
all right.
There may be some ways that I'm superior to you, but there are some ways that you're superior to me. I don't know which all those ways are, but I would not say that, okay, across the board, one of us is superior to the other. And I think that's important for us to recognize, Jesse, don't you? That
Yes.
it just depends on what we're talking about as far as, okay, categorization, this person is superior to another. I will say this, that there are cultures, such as on the African continent, that are inferior as far as progress is concerned. They live just like the American Indian did here in the on the continent of America, and they live in a tribal system. That is that tribal system, that the entire culture has no ability for itself, in and of itself, to progress such as the European culture did. So when the Europeans came to this continent, we were able to, and with the help of God's freedom, that we were able to craft a constitution that unleashed the freedom of man. We were able to make progress unlike anything else. So as far as cultures are concerned, I would say yes, there are superior and inferior cultures. I don't know that that means, it just depends on what we're talking about in the individuals, whether we're talking about the functioning of the brain or whether or we're talking about athletic ability or whatever. But there are superior cultures and inferior cultures. But as far as individuals, I'm a little hesitant to draw that kind of a line. And also I want to say this, that of course has no bearing on our value before God. You're just as valuable if you're superior or inferior to me as I am to God.
But have you noticed that even right now, speaking of the Trump administration, I hear this a lot that Trump, especially from blacks, that Trump has all white men, white people running his thing, right? And
Oh my
Trump is
goodness.
doing that because Trump knows that white people are superior to everybody else. Now, Trump is not walking around thinking about this. It's not in his
Right.
mind, but he knows that if he want to get anything done, he need to put together a group of white men, some white women, but white men if he want to get it done. And even the inferior blacks know that if they want to get something done in their homes or their company, if they have a company, they're going to have to hire the superior people, white people. And so it's not like white people walking around thinking that they're superior, but like I said, a superior person doesn't think that they're superior. They're doing what's natural to them.
Hmm.
But it's the inferior people that's jealous. Their eyes are set on the superior people, and they're jealous of the superior people. But the superior people don't even understand that. They don't think about that. They're just doing natural thing. And so I noticed that the blacks over the last 70 years, they're so inferior to the white people. All they ever can do is say, give me this and try to take this and blame that. They're blaming white men now for making America great again. And then I noticed that other races that come into our country, they do the same thing. They follow the blacks. You have the Allah Uaba people blaming white people and the Jews for their failure after they
Yeah.
come into our country. They want to kill the whites. They want to destroy America, big Satan, or whatever they call it. And so, do you see what I'm talking about? That white people are superior, but they're not thinking about themselves as that way. They're just doing what's natural, where every other race is looking at them and jealous and want to hurt them and take what they have. Do you see my point?
I see what you're saying. I will say that I would not categorize just white people. For example, let's just take the Germans and the Jews. They are people who are more apt in certain areas, and you know they've had a great progress with Germans in the past, much more so than other cultures and Europeans as a whole. And I think that's true. They have had much superior progress in the European culture
Right,
than
all over the world,
right.
Bill.
Yeah, that's true. And then I will say, just to turn it for a moment, that's is exactly why. Not the only reason why, but this is one of the reasons is that the Congress of the United States made it in the past. They made it so that the immigrants coming to the United States was on a quota system, and they would have quotas from European nations and the other nations, and we did it that way because we recognized, not because we wanted white people, but because the European culture had more infused in it the concepts of constitutional liberty and what a constitution is. For it came out of Europe that we have in England, we have the Magna Carta and other documents of freedom. So we wanted people who are acquainted with freedom and free government. We wanted those people to come into America in larger numbers than others, for example, from the African continent, because they have no acquaintance with with free government and the mechanisms of free government. So, matter of fact, this was changed dramatically by Ted Kennedy. Ted Kennedy in the 1960s argued incessantly that this was racist, that we can't do this, and he says we're going to level the playing field and bring in people from the African continent and other continents of people of color, because he said that will only be fair. But the people on the other side would say, well, if that happens, then we'll be overrun. If we break down, we're going to be overrun by the people from the African continent and the South American continent as well. And we're going to be changing America completely. He argued, said that will not be the case, knowing that it would be, and that's exactly what's happened. So we've actually changed the culture of America, but that kind of is a background on the culture of Europe as opposed to other portions of the world, such as in South America.
James, I need Hake to come here for me. He's white. Bill,
Okay, all
if,
right, all right.
I think he can help me explain it. Bill, if Kennedy didn't know that other races were inferior, would he have had to make that decision to do it that way? He can see, because as I said, superior people don't think about being superior. They're just doing what's natural. But he was able to see that these people of color were inferior. At least they presented themselves as inferior. If Kennedy hadn't noticed that, would he have had to do that?
Well, that may be true, and I'm not denying that fact. But his goal, in my view, was to change America and make it a socialist nation,
Right.
where we have a dependent class on the government. And that's what we get when we have the people from the African continent and the South American continent coming in, he knew that they would be more a dependent class on our government than we have all before known. And that's what we've come to right now in America. That's what we are. I mean, you can't right now, if we talk about getting rid of the welfare state, we're going to have a civil war in this nation. But the welfare state is anyway, that's what he was after.
But if white Americans didn't allow the inferior people into their countries, they wouldn't have to come up with socialism, right? Because they would just be flying around the earth, around the country, doing their natural thing.
Well, that may be going too far. You know, Karl Marx was the father of socialism. He himself said that he was a socialist. He said he was a scientific socialist, and he was a German Jew. And the Jews, many of them, Stalin himself was a Jew. They came up with socialism, but it was an anti-God position that drove him to socialism, because socialism has embedded within it an anti-God element.
Right.
Atheism is at the heart of it. So that's how Karl Marx came up with it. So I wouldn't say, well, okay, we would be fine if we didn't have any of the other, So Karl Marx himself, yeah.
But if no one saw themselves or believed that they were inferior, then Karl Marx or no one can build a socialist society, because no one would see themselves as an inferior people or person. If you're not inferior, you can't be used in that way. Am I right?
Well, that may be true, Jesse. I don't know. That's some heavy thoughts. I don't know. I'm not quite sure really on that.
So Hake, you remember Hake, right?
James Hake, yes, I do. There he is, yes.
Hey.
La la la.
So he's white, and I want to bring you in on this because he's white. You are white. Do you know you're superior to all the other races?
At some things it's just plainly obvious. But I don't really think of it like that.
What? Right, because superior people are normal, and they're just doing normal superior stuff.
Right.
And they're not running around thinking, I'm superior.
That makes them inferior when they start to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
And so have you noticed that whites are superior, and then the blacks are inferior, and then other people of color are jumping on board because they want some free equality stuff? And so they're jumping on board. And they are blaming the superior people for everything because they want free stuff now due to being inferior?
You know what? I think that yeah, I do, actually. And I think that it speaks to the socialism thing, because they say that socialism is like based on envy, or all of this DEI stuff and affirmative action and welfare, take from the rich. The rich who are like superior, they're good at making money and keeping it. And some people just work smart, and other people either don't work or they work hard but foolish with their money.
And so am I right in that white people are superior without thinking about being superior? They're doing their thing. They make America work. They're creative. While the inferior people are sitting back just looking, being jealous and envious and all that.
Yeah, by and large, that's undeniable, I think.
So now, Bill, what you got to say?
Well, I would say, number one, we've created that. We created that, and it's not I'm not talking about slavery, but we've created it with the welfare system. And LBJ himself, one of the crafters of the welfare system, stated it very, very boldly and bluntly. And he said, we're going to have all those blacks, and he didn't use that term, voting Democrat from now on. And he did that purposely to make people, the black people in America, dependent upon the government. He said that on purpose. And so he wanted it that way in order to create a socialistic society.
Right.
Unfortunately, the blacks have fallen right into the black culture in America has fallen right in line with that. And now not to say that whites are not on welfare also, but that is human nature, Jesse. That's not simply black culture. That's human nature to take advantage of other people. And so that's why in the Bible, if a man doesn't work, neither let him eat. It was not simply a culture. It was not simply a race. That is human nature to depend upon someone else and to take advantage of someone else and to create that kind of system.
But and you're right. But if the blacks didn't know that they were inferior, and if the blacks were not inferior and they were superior, just be superior people, they Lyndon B. Johnson or no one else could do that, right? To them.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think he could do that to anybody.
How can you do it to a superior person?
Well, we right now live in a welfare state.
Right, but because of the inferior people.
But that's not only blacks on welfare.
Right, because other people join the forces too. They want free stuff, and so they play the role of inferiority as well.
So let's just go to East Kentucky, where I used to live.
Okay.
There were no blacks in East Kentucky that I counted. I mean, there may be some here and there, but there were poor white people. And they were most of the whole culture was based upon government doling out, government handout. But if you wanted to remove that in one swipe, you're going to have major trouble. Just the same as if you're going to go to Baltimore, Maryland and say, we're cutting off welfare today. You're going to have trouble. So I think it's human nature. But it may be right that the blacks are more susceptible to doing that. But I think it's true with human nature as a whole that people take advantage. For example, let me just give you an example. In Jamestown and also in Massachusetts Bay Colony, where John Winthrop was the governor, and they tried the system of socialism. But you know what? They decided we've got to scrap it because Winthrop said himself, he said, the men are simply lazy. They had a place where they brought the common food to a store bin, and then they would dole it out by the government. But he says, now everybody's being lazy, and you're going to find people laying around not working, and we're falling short on our supplies because no one has an incentive to work. But there were no black people there. It was a white culture.
Oh.
But that was what socialism did to Massachusetts Bay Colony. And by the way, America should learn from that, and Jamestown also, where John Smith overturned it and said, we've got to cut it out. But we don't seem to learn from history. Anyway, that's my story.
Okay. I wanted to take some calls on this if you have time.
Sure, I'm happy to.
Let me ask Hake, if the blacks were not inferior to white people, period, would they be crying for equality, or would they simply be living their own lives as individuals?
They would be living their own lives, and it's like a spirit of inferiority. It's not just lesser capabilities, because people can live and get by and be perfectly happy on lesser capabilities, but that they're using. You know what I mean? Like you can.
Yeah, you can.
You can be not that rich, but you're getting on just fine and you're content.
So, Bill, you and Hake agree with me that white people are superior, but because it's natural, they're not walking around thinking, I am superior.
Okay.
Am I right? You agree with that, right?
Well, I don't think I'd word it that way. But
right, because you're superior.
Well, yeah. Well, you got me either way.
But God doesn't call himself God. He called himself I am. But we call him God because God is superior, so he doesn't even think about being superior. He just is. Like white people on earth are superior, so they don't think about being superior. Why would if white people are not superior, why would people of color in government, congressmen, senators, and all that, Why would they say Trump picked a bunch of white men to make him? They have to know, too, that those white men are superior.
Well, I think they grew up in a black culture that teaches that very thing, that the blacks are oppressed and the whites are the oppressor, and it's a socialistic Marxist model. But I like the way James Hake put it. It's actually a spirit of inferiority. Yeah. It's not actual physical or mental capability. It is a spirit that is infused into people. And I think that's what happens in the black culture.
Let me take a quick break. Okay. When I come back, top of the hour break, the hate news, not the fake news. When I come back, folks, we're going to take some call on this, and then we're going to move on. It's so interesting to me. Back in a moment, 2 hours ago. Bill Lockwood is with us. For those who don't know, Bill Lockwood is here every month, the end of every month. He is the host of Patriot Pulpit and Bible Studies with Bill Lockwood. He is the pastor of Our Park Church of Christ in Texas. And we're going to give out his information as to how you can support him, and I really want you to. I want to encourage you to. At AmericanLibertyWithBillLockwood.com. Bill, thank you for hanging out a little longer for us. I appreciate it.
Well, I'm happy to do that, Jesse. Thank you for having me. I do want to say one thing. I don't go by the term pastor. I'm just a preacher.
Yeah, I thought about that when I said that.
Yeah, I knew you did. That's okay. But, in the Bible, the pastors are elders, and there are always a plurality of them over every congregation. So,
okay.
And they have qualifications. But anyway.
So you're the preacher.
Preacher, yes, sir. That's right.
Okay.
Because we want to do Bible things in Bible ways and Bible things and say in Bible terms.
Right on. Amazing. So so for those who just tuning in, I asked Bill and James Hake. Hake is the host of the HakeReport.com Monday through Friday from 9 to 11 a.m. He's also an expert, one of the experts on JesseLeePeterson.com. And I've noticed, and I haven't heard anyone talk about this, but I've noticed over the last 30 years or so that white people are naturally superior to other races. And I use my country first because in America it's whites and blacks. And so I've noticed over the last 30 years or so, white people are superior to the blacks. And the blacks, it doesn't matter what job they hold, how much money they have, where they live. They could be in government, politicians, representatives, and everything. They still cry equality from the white man. And because they know that the white man is superior to them, but the white man doesn't know it or don't know it because white men and white people are just kind of living their life being superior. But they're not thinking, I am superior. They're just doing what's natural, right? It's like a free person. When you're free, you don't think about being free. You're just free. It's only when you're in prison that you think about being in prison. So, Bill, I want to hold you a little while longer, and then
that's great.
I want to add one other quick thing. If black people in America and around the world, there's a black woman on X. I don't know if this story is true or not. Is she doing it? Is it real or is she doing it for clicks? But she moved to South Africa, I believe, to get away from American racism. So she moved to South Africa, and now she's crying bullets. She want to come back home. Come back to America. She's talking about how bad things are over there, that the blacks are out of control, the violence, the crime. They can't get electricity a certain time of the day, and they go for hours in a day. She's hungry. She can't find good food. She want to come back to America. And it's another proof that white people are superior because when white people ran South Africa, it was beautiful. It was working. But the black people being inferior to the white, they cry racism, they attack the whites, and whites moved away into the foreign land, and now they're building up the foreign land, and the blacks are going out there trying to destroy them there. If black people didn't see themselves as inferior to whites, would they be doing that? No matter what, somebody try to bring in socialism or whatever, but if black people did not see themselves as inferior, would they be doing that, or would they naturally live their lives as well?
Well, once again, that's a heavy question. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but in South Africa, that's true. That's what's happening, and the whites have fled. There was a white dominated government back in the 1970s, and America itself became. We were just so inflamed. We said that's racist, and so the Al Sharptons of the world were all over saying we got to stop that. And our government got involved, and we said you got to have more blacks in it. So we turned it over to the blacks, and now it is in disarray, and not only disarray, but there's a lot of violence taking place.
Yeah.
But that's how Nelson Mandela came out of that kind of stuff. He was
Yeah.
at the African National Congress, and they were about necklacing people and violence and demanding the rights to run their own government. Well, okay, so they're running it, and it is going into the ground. So that's all true. So, but as far as if they would do that, if they didn't realize they're inferior, I don't know. But that is true. What's happening?
And you want to comment on that, Hake?
You make an interesting point that they do see themselves as inferior.
Yeah.
And that's why they're like that. That's why they think about whites a lot and blame them and come up with crazy ideas when a situation between a white and a black happens. That is a inferiority complex.
A black person is not, an inferior person is not going to say, I am inferior. They're going to say, I want equality, I want this, I want that. You're discriminating against me.
It's like anger comes from a weak position
Absolutely.
because you can't accept reality.
Good example. Perfect example. And a white person not going to say, I am superior, because they're just doing what's natural. Just doing their thing, going through life, being functioning in life, so you're not thinking I am superior, and you notice these people chasing you, but you're not even thinking that they're doing that because I'm superior. You're thinking, well, they're doing it because socialism or whatever, right? But Bill, I think I'm on to something. I haven't heard anyone else speak about this, but it's so clear.
Well, I mean, it may be, Jesse. I just, I actually think that it's well when we talk about inferiority and superiority, just like we began the discussion, we're using a broad brush, and it just depends on what category we're talking about. There's some things. I mean, we're talking about math skills, musical abilities, scientific achievement, athletic abilities. What are we talking about? And what makes an inferior or superior person? I am hesitant to say, okay, if you're a great mathematician and scientist and all that, you're a superior person than the other person who might have a greater ability in another area. But that's true. We all have different talents and abilities.
Right.
Jesus said this in Matthew 25. He gave some 5 talents, some 2, and some 1. To each according to his several ability. God gave individuals different amounts of abilities and opportunities. And that's true. Matthew chapter 25, he tells us that is the case. But it is wrong for the ones who have the less talents and less abilities to look upon the person who has 5 talents and say, if I had those,
yeah,
I would be just this kind of guy, or I desire that one, because if I had 5 talents like the 5-talent man, then I would not be able to manage them successfully. So God did give individuals different amounts of talents according to that parable in Matthew chapter 25. The key is, if we're going to be faithful to do what God has given us to do, and He has given me talents, you talents, perhaps you more, me more, I don't know. But the key is whether I'm going to be faithful to what God has given me and not spend my time looking upon other people and saying, they have more than I have, and I want that.
Nice. I want to go to the phone. One quick question, both of you, you and James. Could it be possible that white people are superior, but because it's natural, they don't think about it, that the black people being inferior, that they do see you as superior, but you're not thinking that that's what it is because it's natural to be superior. Could it be that black
think it's
people do
possible.
see themselves? What?
I do think that's possible. I think that
I rest my case.
yeah. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I do say that's possible.
And how about you? Do you believe it's possible that white people are superior, but it's so natural, you're not thinking of yourself on a daily basis, I'm superior. You're just living a superior life. And then the black people see themselves as inferior, and they're constantly watching white people being jealous and complaining. And they don't know that, they don't realize it.
Yeah, a lot of times there's this when you have an interaction with the person thinks that you think that you're better, and you're not even thinking anything like that.
Right. The inferior person think that.
Right. Or yeah.
I want to go to the phone. Let's go to Maze, our friend Maze out of out of Dayton, Ohio. Maze, good morning. You're on with Bill Lockwood and James Hake.
Hello.
Hey, Maze.
Hello,
James
Maze.
Hake cannot answer your question, and Bill Lockwood can't either. Oh, I have a question for Bill. Bill, do you pray to your Bible or do you pray to God?
Do I pray to the Bible or pray to God?
Yes.
Well, that answer is obvious. I pray to God. Why?
Okay, so then you're not superior to nobody. But when you talk about welfare, now welfare was not put here, was not invented for black people, was it?
I would not say it was invented for
But
black
that came
people.
out of your mouth.
No,
It
I
wasn't
didn't say
produced for black
that.
people.
No, I said LBJ was one of those who fostered it and pushed it, and he made the statement that we'll have blacks voting Democrat all of our lives, such as perhaps, I don't know, do you vote Democrat?
No, I don't. I'm independent. I don't believe
Okay.
in Democrat or Republican because they both.
LBJ said, you know what, we're going to put them on
Well, let's get
welfare.
back to- Okay, don't
and-
take me
and
off.
they'll
I
be
got
able to
something.
Democrat.
Then when you talk about welfare, okay, Elon Musk is the biggest welfare baby in the room. So if black people had the same opportunity and not envying in their own country to do what he did, they'd be well off. So when you talk about welfare, you don't talk about you always talk about the poor welfare people that get welfare, that they're getting something free. So what did Eli get? Did he get something free? Elon get something free?
Did
And the
Elon get
contractors
something?
and all those people that
Maze, let him respond.
I suppose you know more about it than I do, Maze. I have no idea.
But then when you're in your pulpit, you need to give it to the people that you send here being
Maze, he said that he doesn't have any idea if Elon Musk got anything free or not.
You said he's a welfare baby. How do you say that? Why do you say that?
But I'm saying the Congress, even you can look at the Congress, they get free welfare.
Maze, he asking you, why do you say Elon Musk is a welfare baby? Why
Because
do you say that?
contract, he got government money. That's why.
What do you mean?
He got money for Tesla, and he got money for what's that space thing. He got American money, my tax dollars, just like he got yours. So you're not no blacks are inferior to you. You just envy people. So that's why I say, why are Russia and Ukraine fighting each other? Those are Caucasian people. They're not white black people fighting each other. For what? For their land? Or are they just fighting people? They fighting each other just to be fighting.
James want to respond to the Elon Musk money.
Well, James know it too.
Hold on, Mace.
Elon Musk got that stuff to do a job, not for free because
Elon
he's
Musk
poor.
got government contracts, didn't he, James?
Right.
Or
A contract is not welfare.
Research. He got it through government contracts. Your tax dollars and mine.
All government contracts are not
Hey,
welfare. Sometimes they are, but they're
what
not
are
in
they?
this.
What-
I don't
they
think
get-
they are in this case.
If they're getting government funding, what is it besides welfare? You're getting taxpayer
Paid for a job,
now-
paid to save the astronauts from space, for example.
Well, when it comes to somebody being envy of people, they take from other people to make themselves look good, and then people think they are superior. But no, you don't take from people and make yourself superior to them after you don't took their goods and everything, and then turn around and talk about act like it didn't happen.
But that's
Do you
called
like
being
one?
smart.
Do you preach that out? Do you sit in your pulpit and preach that out every Sunday? When you take from somebody because of your envy, you shouldn't be envying people.
Bill, let me ask.
And you pay taxes.
Hold on,
The
Mace.
difference
Hold on,
between
Mace.
the two of us.
Hold on, Mace. Would a superior person be speaking like Maze is speaking in that Elon Musk got something free? So
No, he was
I
talking about
wanted. Hold
welfare.
on, Mace. Hold on.
Welfare. Get back on it, Jess.
Hold on, Mace. Elon Musk got welfare, and I should be getting it too. Would a superior person be speaking that way? Bill.
Did he fall out?
Oh, you're asking me?
Right. Bill, Mays is complaining that Elon Musk got free stuff from the government to do what he's doing. And
well, Mays has too, so what's the difference?
What do you say? I'm asking what's the difference.
Mays has too. Mays has got stuff free.
Mays, hold on a minute. Listen to Bill. Hold on.
I'm just going to say, our whole system is basically a welfare system. 75 to 80% of our entire federal budget is spent on one another, redistributing the monies that we have or opportunities. That's all welfare. It's impossible for a person to live in this country without receiving something. Even though I may say it's wrong, I don't want to do it. I think it's unconstitutional. We need to go back to the Constitution. So Mays herself has received some kind of benefit from the government too. So
no, I haven't.
Where are we?
I don't get government loan. What are you talking about? I guarantee you got one.
You don't have,
I guarantee you have gotten a government loan. So did you call that welfare? You got the Congress?
You never got a government loan for Mays?
What?
You never gotten so you don't own a home?
What? No, I don't.
Oh, you rent.
Did you go to school? Did you go to school?
Oh. I didn't go to school. I didn't do none of that stuff.
So you don't
You never went to school at all?
No, I didn't. That's what I'm saying. Bright people, when I listen to bright people talk.
How'd you learn to read?
What it is that beware of false prophets.
How did you learn to read, Jane want to know?
Well, once upon a time, there was a lot to keep people from reading.
No, how did you learn to read?
He did. Same way he learned to read.
My mother taught me to read.
Mays, how did you learn to read?
How did I learn to read? The same way you did.
In school? I learned to read at school. You did too?
I learned to read in the church.
Mays, did you go to public school at all? Did you ever go to public school?
Mays, Bill has some question for you, Mays.
Mays, did you ever go to public school?
Yes, I did. So what was wrong with it?
Okay, so all right. So then you received public welfare.
No, you didn't. I received no public welfare.
Yeah, you did too. Someone paid it, and you didn't pay for your own. That's right.
But then Mays says she didn't go to school. Now she says she went to public school.
Yes, I went to public school. And what's wrong with it?
She said she went to church.
She needs to go back to church and repent on that.
Let me tell you something about
you said you didn't go to school.
Public school?
Mays.
Let me I'm talking a lot.
Mays.
School get welfare money.
Mays.
School is Mays. What?
You said you didn't go to school. And now you're saying you did. Did you go to school or didn't you go to school?
Well, no, I didn't.
So you didn't go to
David.
But
you did not go to public school.
I mean, from talking to Lockwood.
So what, Bill?
She did not go to public school at all?
I don't know. She said she did.
Cincinnati?
She said she did, and now she says she didn't.
I'm asking you, did you go to public school?
You know what? In Cincinnati, I know very well that they have officers who come and take children and put them in school. And if your parents didn't send you to school, they would come and fine your parents if you didn't go to public school. You know you went to a public school.
Did everybody have to go to school in this country? Would they pay? Did everybody have to go?
I got to run because I have no idea where you're going with this. I have no idea where you're going with this. I should let May go. She kind of all over the place.
Well, my only point, Jesse, is this: that the public school system is really a system of welfare. I am paying big bucks right now for a bunch of children to go to school that do not belong to me.
Yeah,
that is a redistribution of finances. Is what it is. It's a welfare system, and that's what we're on here.
Yeah,
and Elon Musk did get. I mean, you could call it welfare because his environmentalist electric cars may have gotten some government funding, like all the other electric stuff.
Right.
Did. Although he got discriminated against, I heard, by Biden.
Amazing. Let me go to Robert out of Kansas. Robert, welcome to the show. You're on with Bill Lockwood and James Hake.
Hello, Jesse, Bill, and James. Good to talk to you.
Thank you.
You know, the thing about school is I really do think it's to make you dumber. They've done some research on that recently, and it seems kids get dumber the more they go to school. So anyway, I wanted to talk about superiority, inferiority. So, like, if you look
Let me
at
ask
Karl,
before you get into. Do you agree with me that white people are superior, and the blacks and others now, excuse me, who are jumping on board are inferior? Do you agree with me on that?
well, I would say, Jesse, that whites are superior in the ways that they are. Men are superior to women in the ways that they are. There's levels, of course, an
And
individual.
so, how are white people? Do white people know they're superior?
Yes, I think deep down, women. Well, we can go
Well, I'm
into
not just
any.
talking about women. I'm talking about period.
Well, women know that men are superior to them.
No, I'm
and I
not
think
talking about that. I'm
Well,
talking
racially-
about in my country. I've noticed that all I ever hear the blacks complaining about the whites, and all that the whites are ever doing is trying to live their lives, and they're being creative. They're doing their thing, while the black people are looking at them and they're jealous, they're envious, they're revengeful, they're attacking them, murdering them, robbing them, and so the blacks are inferior, and then other people of color are jumping on board, and they want equality too, pretending or acting like they are inferior to the whites. Have you noticed that?
Yes, sir. I would, and to answer your question, Jesse, whites are certainly superior. That's obvious. It couldn't be more prima facie in terms of, yes, they are superior. I was talking about Karl Marx. The Jews are obviously superior at evil. The blacks, there is some superiority in the blacks. I love how fearless there's a fearlessness and a honesty.
There's nothing honest about black people.
Well, there's some things about blacks. There's some things about blacks where they are a very strong people.
In what? At what?
You have to recognize
Bill,
that
what
as
are
well.
black? Bill, do you agree black people are strong in some areas?
In the way
I do
they
think-
Hold
are.
I think-
on, Robert.
Yeah.
I do think Robert's right on that. I do believe that blacks are stronger in some areas.
What
For example,
area?
athletics.
Why
I
do you
think
say
if-
that?
Look at the National Basketball Association, NBA. Several years ago, a study was done regarding even the muscle density of the blacks compared to whites, and they came away with the idea that said, you know what, they have different muscle densities. There are differences in the muscle structure of blacks than there are whites, and many black people, they hated that. They argued about that. They said, no, that cannot be, because they didn't want to recognize that there's a difference. But I do believe that physically, regarding sports, I think there's a difference, and I think that's obvious.
But that's not real strength. That's physical strength. I'm talking about the ability to just live your life without being jealous and envious and revengeful toward anyone else, and being creative and doing your thing, bringing things into the world that can help others, just kind of living and not even having the idea that someone can hold you back, or somehow or another you got to be mad at someone else. They need to give you something for you to have a life.
Well, that's why I agree with Robert on this one. Like he was talking about men and women. Women are superior to men in some respects.
In what way?
That is, in nurturing children.
What?
And nurturing children.
Oh.
That's right. Women are superior to men. That's why women birth the children. They're more nurturing, but there is a difference between men and women. It just depends upon what category you're talking about. And I think that's what Robert was getting at here.
Yes, Robert?
Yes, Jesse. Yes, women are so good at relationships and certain other things. They have no physical strength, so they have to go into other means of how they protect themselves and run their lives. They have the ability that they do. Women do what they do. We like Bill said, we can't nurture a child from our body. That's specifically a capacity of a woman. And with the blacks, Jesse, I mean, I was in the military. I played chess with black men who beat me at the game. I've had very, sober, intelligent, strong black guys who would they get the first guy who gave me a book of Rommel. He said, "You want to understand desert warfare?" He gave me Rommel. Right, Rommel was a German general who fought in North Africa, and it was a black guy saying, "You want to understand desert warfare? What we do." There's very capable, smart, great black people, Jesse, and I know that you know that. You're one of them. But at the same time, if you say in general, as let's say not being racist, but being a race realist, yes, there are absolutely. You go to Asia, you're going to have a different experience than if you go to the Congo, right? I mean, if you go to Europe, you're going to have stuff built by white people as opposed to, here where we are kind of more of a collective of different races. So, yeah, it's yes. If you say, why are white people superior, Jesse? Yes, white people are superior. Obviously, they are. I mean, it's not even an argument.
And do they know that they're superior? Do white people know? I don't get the impression that white people walk around thinking I'm superior. They're just doing what comes natural.
They know it, Jesse, but it doesn't matter. Who cares? Just you have to still live your life. I mean, you could be superior. I had your guest here blaming socialism for taking all the jobs out of the Rust Belt. No, guys, that's capitalism. Socialism is the tariffs Trump is putting on now. That's socialism. That's bringing back jobs to people. Yeah.
Bill, when you say that?
No, socialism is defined as redistributing wealth. It is not, we're not redistributing by taxing goods coming into the society. Our society was set up to have tariffs at the very beginning, but the founding fathers all hated socialism, and they made it unlawful for the government to take from one person and give it to another. They made that unconstitutional, but that doesn't mean that they didn't tax materials coming into the society in order to make it a level playing field. That's not socialism.
Well, offshoring of jobs is a capitalist corporate system. It's about money. It's not about the people. Socialism is about people. Communism is about government. How you don't understand, Bill, that socialists fought the communists in World War II, and then you say the same thing. I don't understand how you don't get that. But
because the socialists and communists are the same thing. They're just
they're
one. Yeah, sure they are. Matter of fact, Hitler was a National Socialist. That's what he was, the National Socialist Party. That is one of the big miseducated statements in America that is not just you, but across the board, to say that somehow the Nazis were not communists. They were all in bed on the same side of the spectrum of big government.
Thank
one
you,
was
Robert.
just a.
Bill, I got to take a break. Right
Okay.
back. Joel, I need you to come in. Joel said, Jesse, you're not being fair. Let me see. I can't. What Joel said? I'm not being fair-minded or something? It went away. I can't see it.
You're not being fair-minded. Women. Okay. You're not being fair-minded, Jesse.
Okay, Joel, come and explain to be fair. Joel is one of the experts too, Bill, on the Jesse Lee Peterson show. And he said, I'm not being fair-minded. And I just want to see what he mean by that. Joel Friday TV, he black. Joel, you know Bill?
Yeah, I know Bill.
Bill,
hey,
you
Bill.
know Joel?
Yes, sir. I know Joel. How are you, Joel?
All is well, Bill. Thank you.
Good to see you today.
You too.
And you say I'm not being fair-minded. You mean,
Yes.
Meaning what?
Because generally speaking, you're right. Like if you look on in a general way, we see that blacks behave a certain way, whites behave a certain way. But when it comes to character, individuals don't behave that way. It's a spirit thing. It's a character flaw to want to think a certain way. So if whites aren't superior, blacks aren't superior, whites aren't inferior, blacks aren't inferior. If you think you're inferior, it's because it's a character flaw. It has nothing to do with color. So I agree with Hake when it's spirit, and I agree with Bill Lockwood when it comes to character. But I also agree with you that in general, when we're looking at it, society shows that blacks behave a certain way and society shows that whites behave a certain way. And it looks superior and inferior, but that's a false view. That's just what we see in reality. But in the spiritual way, there is no inferiority or superiority.
Do you want to respond?
You even got Bill Lockwood laughing. You're laughing with him or at him?
No, I'm with him. You know what? I believe Joel is right, though. What he's doing is exactly what we started off the program talking about, and that is it depends upon what category you're talking about. If we're talking about spirituality and worth and that kind of thing, or if you're talking about physical ability, if you're talking about being able to make a culture or a scientific advancement, it just depends upon what category we're talking about as to say something is superior or not. And what standard are we using, by the way, to say something is superior and inferior? What standard are we using? How can I say something is superior if I don't know the standard by which I'm to make that assessment?
And you say, hey, what Joel, in response to Joel too?
I don't really see where you're being unfair-minded, but I think that the standard is the standard in terms of superiority and inferiority is one like the in the mind, because you mentioned how the people see themselves as inferior and they see the whites as superior. That's why they say, "Oh, white supremacy" all the time. They're projecting their ideas onto the whites when the whites aren't necessarily thinking like that.
The reason why I say not fair-minded is because you're right in some of the things you say in general, but you're looking at it as a color thing. You're just saying that whites or blacks are inferior to whites. And that's just not true. There are blacks who don't believe that or blacks who don't adopt that same mindset. So it's not a color thing, it's just character to me.
And you say Anchor Baby? Anchor Baby is also an expert here, Bill. Anchor Baby, you know Bill?
Yes.
And Bill, you know Anchor Baby?
Do I know him by the name Anchor Baby?
He knows me as Nick. He does not know the Anchor Baby yet.
He's known as Nick.
Now he knows.
Oh, I know Nick. Yeah. Matter of fact, I talk to Nick every time we have the show. Yeah, you bet.
Yeah. Nick, what do you say about white inferiority and inferiority?
Well, for example,
superiority.
Well, for example, in what Joel just said, it's unclear what exactly he disagrees with. It seems the only thing that it seems like you guys agree on the content of what you're saying, but when it came to how to describe it, the spirit versus the word inferior, it's unclear exactly where he sees the difference in between what you're saying and what James and Bill are saying. So I'm a little unclear on exactly what the difference is besides the word spirit and inferior. And I think that gets at the heart of what I like about what you're saying, because I don't know if I've thought about it as deeply as you have or anything, but to me it seems like you're just attempting to get to the baseline of the conversation. Can we at least say what we're seeing? And it seems like you're all agreeing on what you're seeing, right?
I agree.
And then beyond that, I think people get fearful, and I think you've totally gone to the heart of why controversy exists. Is because you get fearful of saying the obvious truth that you see because of what you think you mean by it. Oh, you think you're saying, now people are adding to it thinking you're saying blacks will never get better, it's IQ, or you're saying all these other things when you're just saying what I'm seeing.
Right. But I agree.
And I do understand what all you all said. I agree those things are there too. But all I'm saying, Bill and everybody, I'm not thinking of a category. I'm not thinking about spiritual. I'm not thinking about if you can overcome it or not. I'm saying what I see happening in my country, I see white people being normal, living their lives, being creative, raising their kids, doing what they do. And I started out with the blacks because the blacks are the next majority of people in my country, blacks and whites, right? And I see the blacks chasing the white people saying, I want equality, I want this, I want that, I want that. And then I see other people of color jumping on board, and they're saying they want equality and all that too. Why I don't see or hear white people saying they want equality. They just want to leave me alone. I'm living my life. I'm doing my thing. and and I see in that there is a superiority, and then I see the inferiority people complaining about the superior people instead of just being superior themselves in life, period, not equality or any other thing. All I ever hear day in and day out, and it doesn't matter what position they're in, how much money they have or don't have, they're still complaining about the white man or white people. It's just, and white people, and I look around, I don't hear white people saying, I'm superior. They're just living their life, but they're being blamed. They're people are jealous of them and envious and revengeful toward white people. That makes sense, Bill?
It does, but I tend to agree with James Hake when he made a comment a bit ago about envy. And that is our system has created, socialism actually is built upon envy and jealousy. So if we redistribute equally today between all of us, tomorrow it will be unequal because you'll be wise with your money, I will be foolish with mine, and then we'll once again have this cause for envy. So the root problem is envy, and I think that's the root of it all, and the envy and jealousy in the heart, and it's a heart problem, and that's why we go to the gospel of Christ to remedy it.
I want to do this. I got to end this conversation. Joe, you want to make another point, though. You started to, you forget.
No, I mean, at the end of the day, I just think it has to do with like the resounding issue is a character flaw. It comes from the heart, or it's a fleshly thing. But that goes to whites, that goes to blacks, that goes to Asians. It's not a color thing. I just don't see it as a color thing at all.
Would a superior person ever complain about another superior person?
No.
Would a superior person ever complain about another superior person?
Definitely not.
Bill, will a superior person ever complain about another superior person?
Absolutely, because sin gets in anybody's heart, whether you're superior or inferior. Sin is what causes people to be that way.
And Nick, would a superior person ever complain about another superior person?
No, not like that.
Amazing.
Not about superiority.
Bill, I want to take at least one
I'm in the minority here. Okay.
Are you superior, Bill?
It depends upon what you're talking about.
Period.
Superior in what way?
Period.
No, I wouldn't say I'm superior, period. To what? What is the standard? Who am I comparing myself with?
No one. Superior people don't compare themselves with anyone or anything.
Then I'm not superior, because if I'm comparing myself to myself, then there's no superiority, there's no inferiority. I just am.
Amazing. Let me go quickly to William. He want to comment on this, and then Bill, I got to ask you about Trump, and we got to go.
Okay, that'd be great.
William out of California. Thank you for calling. Thanks for holding. You're on the air.
Hey, Jesse, how you doing?
All is well, William.
Yeah, I just wanted to give my opinion about the superior-inferior subject. I'll make it a little simple. I have actually never heard somebody, white or somebody doing better than me financially or whatever, say that they were superior over me. And I've noticed that people who measure superior and inferior, usually the so-called inferior people, you never hear them say that. Not only that, but you always hear the inferior complain about.
Yeah.
And about Africa, in the early days of humans, they invented a lot of things, but lately, technically, no, they haven't.
Amazing.
And there's no countries better than this country over there. And South Africa is actually a mess since they gave it back to the blacks.
Yeah. Bill, you want to comment on that?
But I've never heard anybody that's so-called superior say that ever in my life.
Well, I'll just agree with William on that one. I mean, particularly regarding South Africa, it's interesting though that the whites in America, such as the Bill Clintons, who are you're saying are superior, they're the ones who wanted to give it to the inferior people in South Africa. Why is that? I wonder. Why is that?
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
To control them.
Mm-hmm. That could be true too.
Amazing. Thank you, William.
Yeah.
William,
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Jesse, but thank you for the subject and thank you for having Bill. I like Bill Lockwood.
He's amazing.
Thank you, William. Appreciate that.
Right on.
All right.
Thank you, William. Bill, tell the folks how to get to your website, how to support you, and all that good stuff.
Well, thank you, Jesse. Well, the website is American Liberty with Bill Lockwood. I don't put articles on there at this point, but it does have a donate button on there, AmericanLibertyWithBillLockwood.com. The podcast is Patriotic Pulpit. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music. And then I also have Bible Studies with Bill Lockwood, which I preach out of the pulpit of the Churches of Christ, and that's also on YouTube as well.
Thank you. James, are any of our super chatters responding to this superiority thing?
Let me check. Over on
Super chat. Super.
Aaron says the show is on fire this morning. Hearts on fire. Sion says, ask Mr. Lockwood, cowboy emoji, has he ever encountered white people who just act and feel as if they're better than any other race, like snooty snobby?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I have. It not only toward other races, but toward me. They just act snobby. Yeah, I've encountered people like that.
Right on. Thank you, Sion. Thank you. Who was the first person?
That was Aaron, I believe.
Thank you, Aaron.
And Ronnie says, Uncle Jesse, are white people superior to black people?
Ronnie asked me that.
Mm-hmm.
They are not, but the black people think so. And it doesn't matter what kind of job they have or anything. They could be the president of the United States. Obama was the president of the United States. And they were still saying that white people were superior, and they would call the white people racist. You have to be thinking that they're superior to you if you have that kind of attitude toward them. Amazing. Thank you, Ronnie.
Anthony on Cash App. Could it be laid back laziness some cultures embrace?
Joel?
I missed that last part. Laid back what?
Could it be the laid back laziness that some cultures embrace?
Yeah. And I think that's some cultures embrace, whatever that is, whatever their culture is, not a specific individual or color.
And Sion says, Mr. Lockwood intelligent, but he is very humble. I love everyone who loves Jesse anyway. Laughing face with tears. But right. It does exist, Jesse.
What?
Superiority? I'm not sure.
Amazing.
Racism?
Thank you, Sion. Amazing. I got to stop there.
Okay.
Because
we'll read the rest
time.
later.
Thank you all. I appreciate that. Bill, I got to ask.
Yes, sir.
The Pope expired recently. What is the job of a Pope? Why do people need a Pope?
Well, okay, this can take us another several hours, but you know what? We don't need a Pope. And the Pope the Pope himself, this is an apostasy from the New Testament predicted in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, where the man of sin, which I believe to be a reference to the Pope, and Catholicism itself is really an apostasy. So they claim that he's infallible. He's not. And so they made that claim. It was not dedicated or decided rather until 1870. Pope Pius IX said, that we're infallible and that this is retroactive. It goes all the way back. But the facts of history are so clear. The first pope was crowned in 606. It was Boniface III. That was the first universal pope. And it was just a power grab through the years. And so that's all that it is. The Catholic Church actually is a secular government. It has over 200 acres or so. It's a secular government wedded with a religious government, and so secularism wedded with religion, and that's all that it is. So it was a power grab through the years, and no, we don't need the Pope. As a matter of fact, we can read the Bible for ourselves and understand it for ourselves, as they did in the early centuries before there was such a thing as the Roman Catholic Church.
Amazing. And this is Donald Trump, the Great White Hope, 100 days in office, I believe. How would you rate it?
You know what? I think it's A plus. This the guy he is on fire. You know what? I don't know that everything. I've read some things that say that some of his executive orders have overstepped boundaries for what the chief executive officer should be able to do, and that may be true. I haven't examined every one of them, but I will say this: he's done number one on the border. That is exactly what needed to have been done on the border. On the economy, this tariff thing is exactly what we need.
Yeah.
We had a decided and purposeful decline in America from the times of the 1960s on, where we have declined the economy of America through NAFTA and GATT and other different World Trade Organization agreements, the WTO, and Trump is turning back the hands on that. I think that is so fabulous. Men and women's sports, he's come out on that. He's, the Gulf of America, everything he does is just really, really great. It's just really wonderful. I think it's just an A plus.
I couldn't agree with you more. You're absolutely right. Bill, last word before you go.
Well, listen, I enjoy being on here with you so much, Jesse. You're such a great host, and James and those other what was Joel
and
Nick,
the
all those guys.
Baby.
And Anchor Baby, this is great. I love the show today. I think this is really great. Just y'all are doing such a fabulous job. I enjoy having this discussion.
Yeah.
So I hope we do it again like this sometime.
I do too. It was amazing.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
All right. Yeah, I want to say bye to Bill.
Bye, See you, Bill.
All right, we'll see you guys. Take care.
And
Cheers.
Your website, one more time?
The website is AmericanLibertyWithBillLockwood.com.
Right on. Thank you, Bill.
Okay, thank you so much, Jesse.
All right.
Have a great day. All right.
You too. Amazing.